Hello everyone, my name is Natalia and I'm a senior designer at NZ Design and Associates, and we're here today at Luxury Marble and Granite with Beat Riqueros.
Thank you so much, Natalia, for
Thank you,
inviting
that's
me
my
and
pleasure.
And making this video. It's very exciting and very privileged. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I hope that whatever questions your audience has out there, I'm able to answer and help them. And,
Wonderful.
And know that I'm always available.
So if
for
they're
any
good
questions.
note takers, they can take a note at the end of this video, write down the phone number, email, and reach out to Bea, and she's going to answer the questions you have.
Absolutely. So Luxury Marble and Granite Design Inc. Started about 15 years ago. I've been in this industry for over 30 years. I decided to take a dip and I did a big splash and created my own company. I am a woman-owned business and minority-owned business, and in a way it's kind of a family business as well with my husband, and trying to lure in my children, but that's a whole different story.
That's a whole different story, always.
But again,
so here's the question. If you were to advise a client with a moderate budget, say, which one would be the most affordable, and then which of these materials would be mostly on the high end, or maybe there are 2 or 3 that are on a high end and 2 or 3 that are most available. But I want you to keep being kind of cautious, and as you talk about the price, talk about the timelessness, because if the product is cheap and it's not going to last 5 years, then for example, I can't offer it to my clients. Correct. Because when I have a family, right, and they want to stay in a house for 20 years, they still want to save money, but they want that product to be timeless for 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so when they're ready to sell, they just patch and paint the walls, and then everything is designed, and they call the realtor.
So I think it all boils down to the client's inspiration of what they want at the end of the day, because they're going to live in that kitchen per se, you know, and they have to like it. Okay. Timeless, I think in the natural stone, it's always going to be a timeless, no matter what, because it's always going to be there. They're always going to be available, no matter what. The porcelain and the quartz are man-made stones. I believe that if you go to the quartz, you want to choose something that looks realistic. Okay. Me personally, I would not put this in my house because it doesn't look for real. It looks more of a kindergarten scribbles. Sorry.
Okay.
This looks more natural, more organic. And I think I would use something more like this than something like this. So this could be a timeless countertop compared to this one. Okay, because this is very dramatic. And if you're trying to sell your apartment and the first thing you see is like big black countertops with just the veins there, it just...
So because, like you said, it's a form of preference, people have to be mindful that if I'm a 35-year-old bachelor and then I want a, black countertop like this, I know that I'm going to move out. I don't really care if it's going to be there in 20 years. But if you are building a house for your family and you plan, to have children and grandchildren, then you have to be more conscious of what is trending right now versus what's going to go.
Exactly.
Right?
And with the porcelains could get away with looking very natural. You could probably go into a house and even know that they have the porcelain.
Okay, of course.
And then the finish, the porcelains do have a very high polish, but there's some porcelains that have a matte finish. And the matte finish sometimes look a little bit more realistic. So this would be a matte finish. And as you can see, it looks more like a real marble. This is the real marble.
And this is more like a designed, man-made thing, and then this is more like a natural, even though this is a porcelain, not the natural stone.
Correct.
Right. We could talk about it all day long, right?
There's a lot of pros and cons and everything, but at the end of the day, it's what the client likes, and of course, within their budgets. And doesn't mean that all the quartz are going to be more expensive than the granites or the marbles or the quartz. It's just going to be based on the color and the
veining and texture and overall look.
Yes, and what's trending in that moment. Obviously, whatever is trending within that moment is always going to be a very high price range. Yeah, but again, the granites, Rarely did we do any granites, but I believe that they're going to be coming back in the
Coming
next
back.
couple of years.
I mean, now that
Yeah.
I look at the selection you chose,
Yes.
I think they're coming back big time. I have a feeling like these quartzites are getting into a construction field, design field very strongly. What do you think it's going to happen? Is it going to last, or is it still going to be marble that it's beating them all over the years?
I think marble, as you mentioned, it's a very timeless stone, and it's always going to be. It's always going to be available. It's always going to be something that everybody's going to be using. Quartzites was not very known a few years ago until I would say maybe 10 years ago, more or less. It was mostly the marbles and the granites. But now quartzite comes in the picture. There's a few quartzites that will stay forever. Maybe your neutral colors, like all of your icebergs and your crystallos. There's more quartzites, more of the gray with the veining, kind of have that marbly look. But again, it's very dense and it's more stronger than your natural stone. But I believe, and this is just my opinion, is that any of the natural stone, no matter what it is always going to be a very timeless piece, and it's always going to be available.
So what we're trying to demonstrate here to you guys is that some of the quartzite
Translucent.
have could be lit, and then you had a nice name for it, see-through, right?
A translucent.
Translucent.
Yeah.
So that's a new trend. A lot of people is using that option and lighting up quartzites. How long is it going to stay in fashion? We don't know, but
don't
it's
know.
a pretty cool option
It's
right
a very
now.
cool option, yeah.
Yeah.
Usually a lot of people do it on their islands, and they also do it on the backsplashes.
Backsplashes,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's a very nice, cool feature. If you know, me personally, I do have iceberg in my house, and I have lit in my island.
Oh.
So I only turn it on when I have guests and I have a buffet, and we're using the islands as the
Do
buffet.
you have it on the dimmer, or is it like
I have them, yeah,
on the dimmer, so
and-
you could make it lighter, make it
Correct.
brighter, make it darker,
Yes.
right? Okay. Sounds good. So what's next? As much as I love the onyxes, I feel like they're not gonna last long.
Onyx, you know, it was very hot in the 1960s and 70s. And if you know, I'm pretty sure you've seen it in very old homes where they have the onyx bathrooms, the onyx
Right.
bathtub. And it was used a lot during the 1960s and 70s era. Right now, onyx is basically used more for feature pieces. It's not very common to use it in the kitchen. It's not very common to use it in the bathroom, unless it's a nice wall feature wall, or maybe a fireplace, or maybe a coffee table, or something to that effect. But it's not very well known to use it for countertops.
Okay. So before we go to the option how to light it up from the back, how durable onyx is? My assumption is that people don't use it on countertops and vanities because it's not as durable, or is
Correct.
it expensive?
Besides being expensive, it's not a very durable stone. You know, obviously we don't recommend it for countertops, but again, you know, if it's more of a show kitchen, then you know you're more than welcome
Right.
to use it. But
Right.
yeah, it's very easy for chipping as well because it's a very fragile. And but other than that, it's a beautiful stone. It's Mother Nature, you know, doing its wild stuff. But yeah, you don't really see it much. Maybe it's a backsplash could be an option, but for countertops, yeah, I don't think it would be a good idea.
Okay. And what? Last but not least is the travertine.
So again, travertine has been around for many years. It's a very porous, as you can see. It has a lot of holes, and there's two types of travertines. There's the unfilled travertine, and which you can see all the holes, and then there's the filled travertine. Unfortunately, I didn't have a sample of the fill, but it's just they fill it in with epoxy matching color, and it just looks like patches. Once it's done and completed, it looks very natural. So it's not something like, oh, you know, it's patchy and I don't like it. No, it looks very nice and very natural. It does come in the home finish, the unfill, and then the polish. And it was used back a lot in the 1990s. It kind of stopped late 90s, and it's coming back.
Okay.
It is coming back. And it's, a lot of people are using it again in their kitchens and their bathroom, which is fine. It's a very porous. You could seal it, but there's no guarantee in not getting a stain. Travertine is coming back also in using it for feature pieces, coffee tables, dining tables.
And then do you guys currently do furniture as well?
Yes, we do a lot of the coffee tables in the travertine.
Okay.
And they're selling very well. They're
Okay.
selling very well.
So you guys have to take a note that if you ever think of a dining table, luxury bench for your entrance, or a coffee table, or fireplaces,
Yes.
anything that's extraordinary, and then you can't get it at any retail store. It could be custom made here and
Correct.
at the Luxury Marble and Granite.
And
Okay.
what I like about travertine, it's natural and it's very organic.
Okay.
Very organic.
Can we just quickly mention the durability issue? Because I know that, we've been talking before, you said that it's better for tables, something occasional, and there is a need to use coasters and
Correct. Yeah, again, because it's the nature of the stone, it's very crumbly. For kitchen use constantly, it could start to get chipped. So compared to maybe the quartzite, it's a little bit more dense and stronger, so it's not very easy to get it chipped. The marbles, again, they're very soft, so it's more of a high risk in terms of getting chips. The granites are very dense, and it's not that easy to get them chips. And when I say chips, it's usually the edges.
the edges.
The edges, yeah. Unless something's, dropped on the center and it cracks or chips it, then, that's what's going to happen with any
Any of them?
and that's including your quartz and including your porcelains. You drop something heavy on it, it's going to break it, it's going to crack it, it's going to chip it.
Okay, no matter if it's porcelain, no matter if it's marble, granite, quartz, everything can chip. So,
Everything could chip.
So don't believe in myths that if I go and create a countertop out of porcelain, I'm not going to do it because it chips more than any other. No.
No.
It's if it's done well and if it's done by people that know what they're doing, it's not going to chip. But if you drop something on it, it will chip.
It will.
And then when I said last but not least, talking about the travertine, I meant, help me be, we were talking first, all the man-made stone, right? Because right now we are moving towards
The quartz.
the quartz. And then tell us about the quartz. Everybody is recognizing it, right? It's been
Yeah.
used for over, 15 years
About,
now?
I would say about 15 years,
Yeah.
more or less. It's a man-made stone. And the quartz, it's beautiful. It mimics the marble look, and without the worry about getting a stain or anything to that effect.
Ever.
Ever.
Okay.
Correct. All the brands warranty their quartz for life. Again, it can't get chipped if you drop something, but it's more harder, more denser. Again, it's I believe it's a stone that's a surface. I shouldn't call it a stone because it's not a stone. It's a surface that's going to probably stick for another few more years, unless the manufacturers come with something different that will look much better than their current
Right, like
palettes.
yeah, because with all the marbles and all these organic patterns that the earth created, we're kind of missing it as it was man-made, and then so we're missing it. So people like more something busier, something looking more natural, and then at the same time more sophisticated.
Yes, one thing that I do want to point out is that when you go and look at the quartz slabs, you see one, you see them all,
Right.
because they're going to be identical.
Okay.
They're going to be identical.
Because they're typing a program, putting it into a machine,
Exactly.
mix,
It's
you
a
know, all
template, and
ingredients, and then
exactly.
it's, yeah.
And when you're looking at natural stone, no slab is going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, unless it's a book match, but then again, they're not 100% book match.
Right,
So-
right.
And that's the good thing about the stone. Me personally, I love the natural stone. That's what I grew up selling most of the time. And for me, and I don't call them imperfections because that is the natural stone of Mother Nature. She creates it the way it is, and it's
More
not
perfections than imperfections,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
But when you get to quartz, then anything you see is going to be an imperfection.
This is definitely going, you think, unless they come up with something
With
that it's going to
something,
look closer to natural. Okay,
Exactly.
sounds good. Right now, last but not least, I have a question for you because a lot of my clients are drawn into porcelain these days. And everybody is afraid about the fact we just talked about, that it's going to chip, that it's going to break. I've done several kitchens with beautiful backsplashes, beautiful countertops, and it never chipped. But it's so hard for me to convince people that this is a good material. I am all about sustainability, so I love that this material is sustainable. So it's close to what natural marbles and granites are, natural stones are. How do I talk to people? Are we going to repeat ourselves that everything can be broken? And then porcelain is a material to go these days. And it may, and that's my next question, may it last longer than the natural? Is it just a trend? Is it going to stay with us for the next 10, 15, 20 years?
I believe it took a while for the porcelain to come out of its shelf. It started, again, maybe 10 years ago. And it was not very common that a lot of people asked for it. And not everybody worked with the porcelain.
Okay.
I would say in the last 5 years, more or less, that's when it started exploding a little bit more. Me as a fabricator need to get into that phase as well because, a lot of people are asking for the naturals or like for the quartz, but now they want porcelain. So we had to get into that phase as well. We got trained by our porcelain suppliers, and they were out here, they trained us. Now, porcelain, it's like your tile floor that you use. It's the same material. The difference between the quartz and the natural stones and the porcelain is that porcelain is thinner.
Okay.
And when it's being fabricated or cut, there's a high risk that it might crack on the machine. Compared to the other ones, it might exist, but not as high as the porcelain. Okay. And when that happens, we as the fabricators happen during our time watch, and therefore we are liable and responsible for that.
For anything like
anything, we just have to replace it. And that's why it makes the porcelain labor. The porcelain itself, the material, is not a very expensive, but the labor, the fabrication and installation.
And the liability that comes in
risk,
it.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Again, as you mentioned, once it's swelled and installed correctly, you shouldn't have any issues with it. Nothing's going to happen to the porcelain.
So what people come across, because there are friends and family members asking like, I went to a guy that does marble and granite and he told me never use it because it breaks. Sometimes they just their shops are not prepared for the advanced materials. They haven't been trained, or they don't have as much experience in dealing with porcelain. But if you're dealing with the right person, there's no risk in buying porcelain countertop or whatever.
Right? That's just it. It's the fabricator that does not have the experience. The fabricator doesn't want to take the risk.
Doesn't want to take the risk.
And I totally understand that because there is a lot of risks. And when they say it breaks in their watch, not
at your house.
Exactly.
It breaks when they make it, or when they transport it.
Exactly. It can. Anything could happen during the fabrication and the installation. Anything could happen. And that's chipping it. Maybe they're carrying the piece and oops, they hit something and it chips. So anything could happen. But these are fabricators that just don't want to take the liability, and it's okay, So that's why you just have to find the correct fabricator that's willing to do it.
I like that word.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and again, once it's installed correctly, unless you drop something on it or hit it, then nothing's going to happen to your countertops.
Did we say about timelessness on porcelain? Is it staying with us or is it going? What's your opinion on it?
Yeah.
I know you don't want to, put out opinions like what's going to stay, what's going to trend, but
like I said, it just started exploding the last few years. I think it's going to stick for a while. Again, eventually, on the evolution of all the quarries and all the manufacturers, they just have to come up with the next design.
Okay.
It might be, again, sticking with the porcelains. I don't know. But again, the porcelains are made to mimic 99.9% the look of the marble without the risks of having the natural stone, of staining and etching.
I want to ask you about your process because I've been amazed when you send your people. So we call you, we send you preliminary drawings. Then you kind of draw architectural drawings of what we're trying to create. Then your guys comes and then they confirm it in field. Can you talk a little bit about what happens next?
Yeah, so once the client approves the price and the material has been selected, then we send our professional measurement. We do measure with laser, the Pro Liner, that's the one we're using currently. And they do the measurement, they do the takeoffs, then they bring us back the drawings, and then we do a perfect match. Perfect match is a software where we lay the actual slab, and then we program each piece, and then we play like a puzzle to make sure that all the veinings, all the pattern, all the color, where there's a seam.
I remember that with the bathrooms in Palos Park. I do remember that.
Yes, and we'll do 2 or 3 options for the client. We'll email it to the client. And whichever option they like, that's what we go forward. It is called the perfect match, but we want to make sure that the clients understand that there's never a 100% perfect match.
Of course.
Because, we're playing like with a puzzle. And sometimes some veinings, unless it's, it's a flow piece that's going to go within the next one, and we have the allowance within the slab to put 2 pieces together, then that's fine. But sometimes we have to do 1 piece from the top of the slab and then 1 piece from the bottom, and then those veinings are not going to be 100%. So, but it gives the client an idea visually to see how it's going to look at the end of the day. And then they choose whichever option they like, and then we proceed. We program into a Park Industry CNC. We have a CNC, and everything's cut through the CNC, which is laser cut with water and the saw. And then we have our fabrication team consists of 5 guys, and they do all the final touch-ups, putting the, we have to miter, because porcelain has to be mitered. That's one thing we need to talk to about. Yes. Porcelain is not a see-through body. So this is the natural stone, and as you can see here, you can see the veining. It's still going through.
On the sides.
On the sides. This is the porcelain.
No veining on
There's
the
no
sides.
veining on the side. So that means that if we leave it raw, this is the way it's going to look. So when we have to do the miter, we do a 45 angle, and then so the veining falls down. The edge falls down, and it makes it look like a solid piece. And then that's where the fabricators, our guys, the team, will glue it together and polish it and make it nice to look like a solid piece. Actually, this island is porcelain. And as you can see, this is the miter that we do.
But I want to summarize everything and then add something from what makes my life easier. I don't like to go to the huge warehouses with the big slabs. I mean, sometimes when I have to,
It's very overwhelming.
It's very overwhelming. You walk miles of, stone, and then you don't know what to do. When I come here, and when I have B on my side, I show her a picture, and she shows me, this is gonna work, this is gonna work, this is gonna be affordable, this is not gonna be affordable. She has everything in this room that I need. When I tell her to order me samples, she's going to order me samples and she's going to send it to our office, which is so much easier because then I don't need to send an assistant to pick it up, right?
Yes.
And then we send her preliminary drawings. She sends us detailed drawings, and then we guys are getting it going. When you don't want to have a trouble with something, come to a professional place and get it done right.
Yeah, because we have the ability to deal with different suppliers within the city of Chicago and the surroundings.
Right,
So we're
right.
always shopping around for you. You tell me, B, I'm looking for this particular
Right.
stone, but I want maybe a little bit more black or maybe a little more white or a little bit different. Then I shop around with my suppliers and I say, what do you have similar to this? And that's start doing a library for you and start sending you emails. This is what I found. And then once you make your final selection, we always suggest definitely go to the warehouse, look at it in person,
Right,
make sure that's what you
right.
want, and approve it.
But then you know for why you're going there,
Exactly.
right?
You're not
Instead
going
of
there,
going and being like in the forest and looking for a highway. These series, this is the first episode, are being created to help you guys make conscious decisions. And what we'll strive here to do is to save your time, money, and mistakes. So this is B at Luxury Marble and Granite. I'm Natalia at NZ Design and Associates. See you next time.